Okay, now let's translate this musical alphabet onto the neck of this fiddle. So, we're going to start at this note here. So the violin strings or fiddle strings, if you just play them open with no fingers, are G, D, A, and E. Now I have it lying down here, but for me, I'm a right-handed player, so I use my left-handed note, and so it'll be setting up here like this. Okay. And so the lowest note on a standard tuned fiddle is the low on a 4-string. A lot of caveats here, right? In the world of music. This is G note. And so let's start there and walk up and see what this looks like. Okay? So G, and then A flat or G sharp be my first note. And so we're right here. One more half step up. So I just scoot that up to the next note. Takes us to A. Here. Sorry, it's blurry in the background, but I want it to be clear on the fiddle. So that takes us up to A. And again, that's about as close as I could possibly get this finger down next to it. Alright, so when I put down this to play a G sharp, and I put my next finger down, and touching my first finger, then that is pretty much on the A note. And so here I'll just move my finger up though so I can play the rest of the scale. Alright, so here's A. Sorry. G. G sharp. A flat. A. Put our finger down to play that next note. It's going to be A sharp or B flat. Now we'll just move our finger up. Instead of putting one down here, we'll move this finger up to B. The next note up is C. I could just put this finger down, but instead I'll just move this one up. C sharp. And then the next note, and then that takes us through the extent of the notes that are different from the next string up. And by that I mean that our fourth, whenever we play that next interval, there you go. So C sharp to D. When you play that next note up, it's going to be the same as the next string. So we move through, we'll start on G, 1 half step, 2 half steps, 3 half steps, 4 half steps, 5 half steps, 6 half steps. And then when you reach up to play that 7th half step, sorry, that's a little, when you reach up to play that 7th half step, that's a little out of tune, it takes you up to the next string here, which you'd expect. And so that's going to be, and that's what is borne out here on the paper. So when we go from, here's 1 half step, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the next one would take us up to a D. And those are the strings of the fiddle. G, D. Okay? Now, you might be saying out there, for those who are familiar with this instrument, but it's tuned in fifths. We'll get there. Okay? Right now I'm just talking about if I play every note on this instrument, how many does it take me to get from one place to another? Okay? And we're going to start the same way on the D here. on the, then once we get to the D, we can just follow that exact same pattern. And this fiddle is tuned so that every single time you go up 7 half steps, you arrive at the next string tone. Okay? So if we start at D, be D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. A little off, but just in the fingering. But anyway, I hope you believe me that that's true. And if we count, then that's going to be open D. We're going to jump up 1 half step, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. There we go. Anyway, that's that 7th half step that takes me up to A. If we do it here, watch this. A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E flat. And there you go. And can we count that? Open A, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that takes you to your next string. And if this, if this fiddle was just kept on going up and had another string over here, you could do the same thing on your E string. You could go that B note. There's what that is. If this thing had another 5th string on this side, then that note of that string would be a B. Man, it'd be pretty high and it'd probably sound awful, but that's what that would be. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, let's review our patterns to make a major scale, and that pattern was holes. We started out on our 1, our note, whole step to 2, whole to 3, half to 4, whole to 5, whole to 6, whole to 7, and half to 8. Out of A, when we started here, we went 1, we did a whole step to B. I'm going to go a bit quickly through this. If you have any questions, refer back to the previous 2 videos. We're going to whole step to B, be our second note. Our third note, whole step to that one would be C sharp. Half would be D. Take a whole step up to our 5th note, E. Whole step to 6, F sharp. Whole step to 7 would be G sharp. Half step back up to the 8th note in the scale, which takes us, is the same thing, equals 1, just an octave up, takes us to A. Okay? So how does that work on this instrument? Okay? So through that same process, and we know that all of these notes here live on the neck. And so we know that A is here because we found this is a G note. At 1 half step up from G is G sharp or A flat. And then 1 more half step takes us to A. Okay, so that's where we're starting from to play this A major scale. Okay, so we're going to start at A note. Okay, now the next note up is going to be a whole step away from it. On this instrument again, a half step means I'm touching this note, and then the note behind me. And then a whole step means I just go up one more finger space, basically. And so if I go up a whole step from A to get to my second note, I go from A, skip over this to get to B. There's a B. Okay. Same thing now to get to my third note in a major scale. I do a whole step from 2 to get to 3. So my third note up is going to be here, C sharp. The fourth note up, remember that this next string up is D. And so I'm going to be going to the D note. Now I've got two choices here. I could play it on the same string that I'm on, which is on the G string. So I could put down my pinky, how far to go from the third to the fourth note? A half step above the third, like that. Boom. See, they're basically touching. Move my others out of the way. Basically touching. Boom, boom, boom. Or I can just jump over to my open D. Good. And so let's continue the pattern. Let's say we jumped over to the open D. Then you would move another whole step up to get from 4 to 5. We'd take this whole step, E. Another whole step from 5 to 6 takes you to F sharp. Another whole step from 6 to 7 takes you to G sharp. And then a half step up. And again, now, you have another choice. Because at G sharp, a half step up is what? A. So now we're all the way back to our next string up. Or not back to, but we've made it up to our next string. So we could play that. Or the same way we did before. We could just put down our pinky right in front of our G sharp. Half step up. And play it in tune. But play it like that. Or just come on over to our A note. And you'll also notice, where did we start? We started at A. Now we're back up to A, meaning that we've moved all the way through our scale. Are we done yet? No. So we just keep going, repeating the same patterns. So we're starting on an open A note here. We're starting on the open A. We take a whole step up to B. For our second note, starting over. And then C sharp, our third note, is another whole step. Go a bit more quickly here, but here's a half step to get to D. Then our next note up in the scale is our next string. So again, we can use our fourth finger here to play it, or just jump over to E. Let's jump over. Regardless, our next note will be a whole step up from E to get to our sixth note. So it'll be skip here, E. This will be a half, but we got to go a whole, so we move it up a little more. Another finger width, and we get to F sharp, G sharp. To get to our seventh note, another whole step. And then to get back to A again, between G sharp and A is a half step, and so those are going to be touching. There you go. And this can just keep going, really. And this is, let's say you slid your first finger up here to play that A note. Okay? Well, you could keep working your way up the neck in the exact same pattern of whole steps and half steps. So this is an A now. Now it's an A. A whole step takes you to a B. Another whole step takes you to a C sharp. See that spacing? Then a half step takes you to D. And so forth, or so on and so forth, all the way up. And so that's how people play in different positions. And each key, you can go to different spots on the neck. Because you just have to remember, let's say if I want to play the A here, let's say I want to play A with this finger. Okay? How do I know if I did and I wanted to play, and I wanted to leave my hand there and play the second and third note in the scale, how would I know what to play? Well, I know that it's a whole step in between the A and the second note here being a B. And I also know it's a whole note in between the B, or a whole step, I should say, in between the second note and third. Okay, so I think that's plenty for right now. We'll come back, we'll talk about some other things, and continue on our journey. Thanks.